And I want to thank everyone for your participation. Share my screen. Okay. Okay, so here's the agenda. I just want to do a quick overview. Some of you guys that were here on Tuesday is already familiar with the PowerPoint, but just to refresh those who are joining us for the first time, we'll start with a quick round of introductions. And then as a refresher, I'll just do a quick overview of the Sustainable Communities Program. Then we'll go into the renewal application and specifically focus on the action plan section. And then in order to collectively develop the content for the action plan, I'll be using an online platform called Mural today, which once we get to that portion of the focus group session, I'll explain more because that's the majority of where we'll be spending the majority of our time for the remaining of the meeting. Okay, so we do have a mix of community representatives and county staff with us today. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second so I can see you guys. And then I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Yolanda Gregory, the Western Sector Planner for Department of Planning. I am responsible for the Northwest Gateways portion for Randallstown and Woodlawn. And then what I'll do is I will name a few people one by one that I see you in the order on my screen. I just need you to introduce yourself and let me know what department and or community you are representing. So I'll start with Gene.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ngone Job. I'm the Chief of Community Planning. Welcome to the end of the engagement part, but really the beginning of another chapter. And I'm sure the Sydney and Yolanda will be telling you more about what next chapter will look like. But I'm really excited to hear the strategies and the outcomes that we will be discussing tonight. Again, thanks for your participation.
Sydney.
Hey, everybody. I'm Sydney Cooper. I am one of the Western Sector Community Planners for Baltimore County, and the Pikesville section of the Northwest Gateways Sustainable Community Renewal falls in my community planning area.
Chantal.
Hi, I'm Chantal Mason. I am the president of Security Woodlawn Business Association.
John.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I'm John Mason, and I am with DUDE, the Department of Economic and Workforce Development. And specifically, I cover District 4 and District 1.
And Miss Gamble. I didn't want to butcher your first name.
No, it's okay. My name is Tavia Gamble. I am a transit planner, and I'm here representing MTA.
Thank you. Major Hartman.
Hello, Jeff Hartman, captain for Woodlawn Police Precinct. Nice to see everybody.
And Alana.
Hi, I'm Milana Vayner, Baltimore County DHCD, Department of Housing and Community Development. I'm the Chief of Policy and Strategic Initiatives in the department.
And we'll definitely be getting started with your section today. Mitchell.
Hi there, I'm Mitchell Phillips with Baltimore County Bureau of Transportation. I'm a transportation planner.
Karen.
I'm sorry, this is Karen.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm just a member of the Granite community, kind of the bottom part of Randallstown, and I was just seeking out more information, so I'm glad to join the meeting and hear what you guys have to say.
Oh. Steve.
Hi, Steve Levins with the SWBA, Woodlawn Village Revitalization Director.
And Siobhan.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Siobhan Jackson, the Executive Director of Diversified Housing Development. We cover the entire Northwest Baltimore County.
Thank you guys again for your participation. So I'm gonna jump right back into the refresher. Are you able to see the screen? Okay, so here's a quick refresher of the program. As most of you guys already know at this point, the Sustainable Community is a state designation program designed to incentivize communities to incorporate sustainable and smart growth practices into their revitalization goals. The program does this by providing these communities with access to various state grants. Once a community obtains a sustainable community designation, that designation needs to be renewed every 5 years in order for them to continue to have access to these state grants and funds. So the Northwest Gateways renewal application is due in January 2025. And overall, this is a 6 to 8 month process that in our case is led by the Department of Planning and involves county, states, and community input. So just to give a quick recap and overview, on July 9th, the Department of Planning hosted an open house at the Randallstown Public Library to collect community feedback on key topic areas to include into the action plan. And some key takeaways right from the information that we collected. You should have all received this pretty little graphic on the right-hand side. But I wanted to highlight some of the items related to tonight's topics that we'll be going through, which will be housing, transportation, and local planning. So housing, some of the attendees felt strongly about needing to address the vacant, blighted properties in both areas. Many people were unaware of the foreclosure assistance programs available to them in both areas. And then the data did show that a lot of the residents felt that both Randallstown and Woodlawn are relatively affordable areas to live. As far as transportation concerns, both communities voiced concerns about lack of sidewalks in the community and connectivity to shopping centers and parks, high-speed drivers along Liberty Road, Windsor Mill Road, as well as Woodlawn Drive. And then the Woodlawn neighborhoods are stressed about being disconnected from Glen Oak Park, as well as a lot of the pocket parks that's in that area. And then a lack of bike lanes and bicycle safety. So here's the timeline we've been following. We completed phase 1, which is the preparation during which we held our kickoff meetings with you guys. And then we moved into phase 2, the community engagement piece. We held open houses in early July and then held focus groups over the last 2 weeks. This concludes tonight's focus group for the community engagement phase and piece. And then we'll be moving into phase 3, where we'll be drafting the full renewal application before submitting it in January of 2025. So some of the roles and responsibilities that we asked for you all to contribute for all of the local stakeholders and community members. We just want to thank you again for promoting the open houses for us and giving us your feedback and comments. It was extremely helpful. And for all of the agency representatives, we really appreciate your participation in the open houses, assisting us with manning the activity stations, as well as talking with the community and answering any questions or concerns that they did have at all of the open houses. Today, you're here, of course, for the focus group meetings. And then finally, once the plan is drafted, the last thing that we will be asking you to do is to review it, and then also to provide any more additional feedback and or comments that you may have. So we'll get into the application process and the action plan that we'll be working on today. So here's an outline of the main sections of the renewal application. There are 3 sections of the application, which is qualitative assessment, competitive funding, and the action plan. The qualitative piece is a portion that includes significant accomplishments since the last renewal pertaining to the categories outlined in the action plan. There is also a section for goals that were not accomplished to be discussed. The competitive funding section is looking for any type of funding received that went towards implementing the goals and action items that were taken from the last action plan. And then the last section of the renewal application is the action plan, which asks for future projects and their desired outcomes that should take place in the community over the next 5 years. This is where we'll be focusing our attention on tonight as we discuss some of the major community goals and plans everyone has for both Randallstown and Woodlawn over the next 5 years. So the action plan is centered on 6 primary topics. With these, the idea is to create a holistic 5-year plan for improvement in the sustainable community areas. The ultimate goal of the action plan is for the state to have a sense of what the sustainable community area needs and what the county and the community have planned to address these needs. This means that when state grants applications are submitted by any communities within Randallstown and or Woodlawn, for example, the state can go back to the application to see if it actually fits the overall goals for the community. So tonight we're going to be focusing on transportation, housing, and local planning sections. These are several items that need to be completed for each of the topic areas, and then we can see what this looks like in the next slide. So this is an example of the housing section of the action plan. We just want to use them for an example. It's the same format for all 6 topic areas. And as part of our activity, we'll only be focusing on the desired outcomes and progress measures, strategies and action items, as well as the partners that will be assisting with implementing these strategies. Right, so I'm going to stop sharing so Sydney can jump into our online platform mural. So this is going to be the online collaborative tool that we'll be using to collectively develop all of the contents of the action plan. If Sydney zooms out like she has done, you will see that the 3 topics we're covering today, transportation, housing, and local planning, we'll be starting with housing first. Okay. And then we will get started. As I mentioned, we will be looking at the desired outcomes, which is overall goals that relate to each of the topics, and we'll like to see accomplished over the next 5 years. We'll also be addressing the strategies, which are project initiatives, efforts that we can make to reach the desired outcomes, and then the partners, the groups and or agencies that will be participating in the strategies, okay? So the first section is housing, which also Gane has put a synopsis of what that category entails. I'll just do a brief overview. The housing section is basically talking about the strengths and weaknesses can include affordability, home ownership versus rental housing, stock diversity, housing condition and value, housing programs, foreclosures in the area, vacancies, property values, and home sale values. From the, can you zoom in just a little bit more, Sid? So 2 of the desired outcomes that the community that I saw was making sure that all rental properties are properly licensed. And this was a consensus in both areas. And then also increasing educational material to the public, including material in multiple languages. So again, this is interactive. Come off of mute. Give us some of your desired outcomes and some strategies that you think that will be both beneficial for both Randallstown and Woodlawn. And then I'll start with Milana, if you want to just jump in there with letting us know some of the programs and initiatives that you have going on at this time.
Sure. So Baltimore County DHCD actually did not exist as an agency until legislation was drafted in 2021, and then we finally came to be. Before that, the functionalities were very dispersed between the Department of Planning and Housing and Health and Human Services and DSS. It was very disjointed. So we were very happy that there was support to make us into an agency. And we cover a variety of areas. We cover entitlement funding like CDBG funding, and we have a unit for that. We have housing stability programs where we have a housing stability manager that helps to find resources for people who are looking for them. We have our housing opportunities and finance division, and that covers any affordable housing development that we invest in, foreclosure programs, single family rehab, aging in place, and a variety of other programs. They're all available on our county website, as well as homeless services. That was something that was consolidated into our department as well. And so that's what makes up DHCD. And we are looking forward to continuing to create opportunities, reinvest in old housing stock, and also support the creation of new housing stock, because the population hasn't stopped growing. I mean, it's shifted here and there, but it's still very much a need between senior housing as well as just housing for anyone, teachers, public safety, and even at the higher end households that want to move, that also want to live in our communities.
Sure. And can you speak a little bit to like some of the educational materials? Because like I said, I know that it was a consensus of promotion for material when it comes to housing. I do know that we can do a better way of collaborating and making sure that it's in multiple languages, because that also was a consensus as well. But do you think you guys do a good job with outreach as it is, or is this a strategy that you think that you need to implement a little bit more?
So I think a part of it is that, especially because a lot of the functions were disjointed initially, and that was for years, there wasn't unless it was a program that we funded through like housing counseling, and that organization was doing the marketing and the outreach. But because we didn't exist as a department, then we finally existed as a department. Then COVID, and this was as COVID was happening, so outreach events really weren't happening as much. And if they were virtual, which really doesn't have the same kind of impact as showing up at the libraries and at the festivals and at the community events. So I do think that we are actually internally discussing additional outreach and engagement activities that we can do as a department to make the community aware of the various programs that we have, in conjunction with aging, in conjunction with planning, in conjunction with really anyone, our Office of Immigrant Affairs. We actually do work closely with our Office of Immigrant Affairs as well, which sits in the county executive's office.
Exactly. And then the Director of Community Development, Laurel Friedman, she sent a list of things, said if you can plug this in as a strategy, she suggests that we should be including in place, and that she's speaking of Northwest Hospital, as well as Department of Housing or Aging, senior home repair grants for those that may be aging in place. And
include or promote an existing one, or create a program?
Create a program if it's not one. And is it
There is.
Okay.
There is. So it's more, it would be more, especially what we do it in conjunction with aging.
Okay.
The aging in place programs. You do have to be income eligible though, however. So and I think I would say that applies across the board. Most of governmental programs do have income and eligibility requirements, because our purpose here is to serve lower to moderate income and the most vulnerable residents of the county.
Got it.
May I ask a question?
Okay. Go ahead, jump in there, John.
Interrupting your flow there. Hi, Milana. Great to meet you. Somewhat new at the county. I've been here, well, not that new, about a year. So I'm just getting a little bit more knowledgeable about different departments and whatnot. So I had no idea you guys had only been in existence for just a few years. But A couple of questions I've come up with. I spent about 10 years in Prince George's County, and I worked with some developers before coming to Baltimore County. And I worked with some developers who were really focused on development projects where they were able to get the low income tax credits, the LIHTC credits, and got significant capital from the Fed to do affordable, multifamily affordable housing using LIHTC credits. They're actually, pretty much have become expert developers on that and are able to really attract a lot of federal funding because of their history of doing successful projects in other parts of the state and country. So I was just wondering, because I actually was in conversation with one about a few months ago who wanted me to inquire with your office as to whether or not there would, one, be any interest in that, or if, two, there's a mechanism that's set up to maybe help facilitate that from a public standpoint.
So we work very closely with both affordable developers as well as market rate developers. We've been doing actually a push to even have market rate developers include affordability and attainability in the new construction that they're doing. We were actually, as Baltimore County, we were very involved with this. We're awarded 2 LIHTC credits this year for 2 projects. And there weren't that many applications to begin with.
Really?
And like the competitive 9% and the 4% are competitive, but they often twin the deals. So our housing opportunities and finance division, they work particularly closely in terms of the underwriting and getting it from especially once they're awarded, and sending out the support letters to the state. So we, and actually, Prescott Square, it's not in Randallstown, it's in Pikesville, but it's part of Northwest Gateways. They were just awarded a LIHTC this last round for 9%. So they're going to be doing significant energy efficiency upgrades. It was already a currently naturally occurring affordable property. We do have quite a few of those kind of hidden throughout and dispersed throughout the county, but they're older properties that do need those renovations. Unfortunately, when you're speaking about funding, LIHTC doesn't go as far as it used to, and it requires a lot more resources now with interest rates and insurance costs to make those deals pencil. So we're very proud that we got the 2 LIHTC awards that we did, but it's going to be a tough road ahead for construction and developers in general.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Maybe we can talk offline, and if you want me to make any introductions in the future.
Yes, please. We actually just, now that you say that, we just released a request for applications. We're also under something that's called a voluntary compliance agreement with HUD. So we have to produce at least 1,000 60% AMI units until the end of 2027 to do so. So I can put the link to the RFA in the chat, and I'll also put my email in the chat. And we love introductions to new developers if it's someone we haven't done business with. And the timing is perfect because we have an open RFA right now.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Hello. What is the eligible age for the aging in place programs?
I would have to double check. I think it's 60 or 65 and it's 80% AMI, but I can throw that up in the link to that in the chat as well, to the DHCD programs.
Okay. Is there an opportunity to change the eligible age rate? Because once you get into your later 40s and 50s, aging in place is actually so that when you are 60 or 70, then you're at your home. And then when you're talking about improvements to the place where you live at, you're usually there by the time you're 45 or 50.
So the aging in place is not the only program we have. We also have LED programs, and we have single family rehab programs. A single family rehab is not for age, it's income. And that I think is funded with home funding. So, and that'll be in the link that I'll send you over. Sorry, there was a little bit of a lag, and I don't know if it was on my end or your end. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Siobhan, do you
Hey,
have anything to add? Go ahead.
yes, I do. A couple things. One, I definitely agree with John about possibly, using tax credits to create more affordable housing because we do the monthly homebuyer workshops. We do monthly first-time homebuyer workshops. And that is the biggest thing that we ask. We always ask the question, what is stopping you from purchasing? And so many people want to buy in this area, but most of them truly cannot afford the purchase prices. In Woodlawn, Randallstown, Owings Mills, they just they can't afford it. So that's one of the things that we see. We also see folks that can't afford the rent. This area of Baltimore County is a lot more expensive, or is more expensive, I should say, because everywhere is expensive now, but it's more expensive than other parts of the county, we're finding. And then to touch on Milana, like you mentioned, the home program and the down payment and closing cost assistance programs, but those very programs, although they're out there, the people that qualify for them truly cannot afford to purchase in this area. So though the money may be out there to help them with down payment and closing cost assistance, they either don't have enough income, or the prices are just out of their the houses are just out of their price range to afford them. So that's a lot of what we're seeing on the home front. We're also seeing a lot with seniors and individuals getting to the aging in place. We also do home weatherization. And a lot of times with our weatherization program, we can only weatherize if the home is to a certain standard. And we're finding that when we go into a lot of homes that are owned by seniors, they are not up to the level in which we can actually provide the weatherization assistance program. So there is definitely not just the aging in place component I feel needed, but also a need for rehab assistance. And I know the county does have a rehab program or what have you, but we're seeing more and more seniors that, the homes are just in disrepair, so to say the least. So I'm not sure if that helps, but that is what we're seeing in the field right now.
And I'll second just about everything Sean said, because it's true. Places that used to be affordable aren't, and that really is and it goes back to, it's the same problem that developers are now having in creating the housing, right? They can't, the labor's gone up, construction's gone up, some developers can't even insure existing sites because of, frankly, it's climate change. People are scared of wildfires and 100-year floods that would never have happened otherwise. And so, but those are all exorbitant costs. Like where insurance used to cost $200 now costs $1,000. And I'm not kidding, that per unit. It is insane. Interest rates, same thing. It makes it very hard to afford it. It adds on to the monthly amount when people already don't have, and it goes back for our programs too, right? We have limits on certain programs. We can only give 10, 20, 30, whatever it is, but that doesn't go as far as it used to. So that means if the family wants to make those repairs, it's harder for them to afford. It was hard for them to afford it. That's why they applied, but that won't even help because we are limited into how much we can give as an award. Some of it is related, frankly, regulatory reasons why we can't change the age or we can't change the qualification, and we become at risk if we don't follow the federal and state regulations for these programs as well. So, but they're complex and sometimes a little burdensome, but it's still at least it's a source of funding. I know it's not perfect, and we could always use more. We could always use more. Everyone could always use more.
And does anyone have anything else to add to housing for desired outcomes before we move on to the next topic? Right, we can move into transportation. Right, so, transportation,
Yolanda,
go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
before before you move off of housing,
Mm-hmm,
one of the things that I've noticed, I live, as I said, to the south of Randallstown, but I still
okay,
consider Randallstown, I believe. Um, we have noticed a degrading of the, I guess it's the public works, like mowing the sides of the roadways and so forth, to their lack of doing that, to the point that, um, well, one, it's about beautifying the community, right? Making it look decent as you ride through. But it also becomes a safety hazard because folks have to like pull further out from stop signs to actually look around the foliage in order to proceed safely down the road. So I don't know, if that's kind of a strategy, but it's just more of having the that group kind of look at these, the side of the roads. I guess where they have nice little trees going down the boulevard, they may do that a little bit sooner, but just from a safety standpoint, they really need to pay attention to this a little bit more.
gotcha. Thank you for your feed and your input.
You're welcome.
Oh, one more comment, actually. When we were talking about, I know I saw that vacants came up. We did also, I want to share for the community members, we did also create legally a vacants designation where anyone in the community can report a vacant and we can designate it as such. And then we have a public map portal that's open for people to see where those are, and if they know of one and they don't see it on there, they can report it, and code enforcement will come out and look at it, confirm whether or not it's vacant, send a letter to the owner, and then add it to the and designate it as vacant and add it to that list. And then if someone we check on the site every 3 months to ensure that it's still vacant or maybe someone bought it. But for certain properties, it's also, speaking of developers, a tool for them because we've been directing them to those to see if maybe any of those are viable, because it includes both residential and commercial sites. It's whatever is reported as a vacant building or vacant property. And we're encouraging them, if they want county assistance, financial assistance, then they can turn it into an affordable rental or an affordable homeownership opportunity. And with that county subsidy to the construction piece of it, as well as any sell programs, because if it's an affordable, it might be affordable through the closing costs and the settlement cost programs that we have, and we have excellent providers running them. So I'll put the link up there as well, but that's another resource where we're very mindful about vacants, and although they're not to the same level as some other jurisdictions, it still impacts the community, and we really do want to get vacants from vacant to occupied.
So I wanted to know, Melania, from a business standpoint, what would you like to see from businesses? Their participation or collaboration or partnership, or what we're able to like shake hands with, make deals so that we can make things better overall when it comes to this housing portion.
I think it's twofold, right? Because our department is housing and community development, and you need the businesses for job training, for just creating that sense of community when you're walking down a main street, or when you're walking down a main thoroughfare, or when you know that there's this cute little place around the corner that's the hidden gem of the neighborhood. I think all together it helps to build that. So just being there in the public, getting to know the community members, like we have the community leader summit that's going to be at the end of September, right? And all the county agencies participate and for you to get to know us too, right? So if you know that a community member has a concern or needs assistance, you can think of a way to connect them, and because it all is this big web, and we can all help each other achieve all of our mutual goals together.
Okay. Thanks.
Right, and we'll move into transportation, which will be covering pretty much access to transit corridors, pedestrian safety, accessibility, sidewalks, connectivity, alternative modes of transportation such as bikeways and trails, public transit, and carpooling, all of that good stuff. So the only thing that I saw a consensus of when we were inputting all of the open house information into this template was a lot of people said improve pedestrian safety. From the last plan, it looks as if the consensus was more of improving traffic congestion and addressing traffic speed issues, which speed is still an issue, and especially in that Libby Road, Winter Mill and Woodlawn Drive areas. Monitoring and improving parking issues in some areas, especially such as Woodlawn Village, and lack of last mile connections, lack of lighting in certain areas in the security Woodlawn area, and lack of trees or shade were a few things that came out of it. So I will be picking on Tabia and Mitchell to jump in there to start our conversation off with transportation.
Well,
and-
that was a lot, so I'm not sure what to address, but there's only so broad my knowledge goes. It's mainly know about bike and ped stuff, as well as county transit, which would be like our county ride and the loop.
Got you. Okay.
So I don't know if you want me to like share any projects we're working on, or like.
Yeah, because I did see a lot, and I'm not quite sure, Sydney, if you saw a lot in the Pikesville with transportation, but there was a lot of, it was consensus of walking trails, biking trails, and connectivity.
Yeah.
Yep.
Same thing.
So in that area, our main project I can talk about is Old Court Road Complete Streets pilot project. So that is on Old Court Road. It was originally from Randallstown Road to Liberty Road, but we just recently extended the corridor to Northwest Hospital, and we have spoken to them. They would like to be a partner on that project. So Complete Street basically what it is accommodating all modes of travel on a roadway, so not just cars, but hands, bikes, people using mobility, people taking transit. So the goal of that is to overall make it safer for all those other modes, which in turn tends to lower those travel speeds, which then in turn kind of addresses. So this is our first project in our jurisdiction doing Complete Streets. So we're hoping to learn a lot and make a really good corridor for you all. And yeah, any other bike projects, if anyone has any specific areas they'd like to see bike lanes or things like that, feel free to email those to me, or I don't know how we could get that across, but yeah, I'm not coming to my mind in exactly that area any trails. I know we're looking at a Red Run trail, but that's in Owings Mills.
Okay.
And then also transit. We just completed a feasibility study for adding an additional service. So currently right now we have 2 routes in Towson, we're looking to add a service to the Owings Mills Randallstown area. So kind of like to Liberty Road Northwest Hospital corridor, kind of libraries and senior centers, things like that. So yeah, we're currently seeking funding to try and implement that project.
And then Tavia, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't have any sort of specific projects in these areas for MTA. I know that during some of the sort of outreach and engagement, a lot of the transit and transportation discussions were really focused on the safety improvements and like speed. But just as a note that large projects that MTA does have going on are, of course, the Red Line was announced as being light rail. So it won't necessarily give direct connectivity to these neighborhoods, but that is one of the major projects the agency is working on. But no other sort of major projects at this time. I know one other item that we talked about last week, I don't think I heard it as much with these communities though, is sort of some interconnected connectivity. So looking at something like a circulator option that may be free. I think that's all that I have, but happy to listen if there are any suggestions or needs that we can sort of coordinate with the county on, or if there are needs that you guys are looking for from MTA.
Yeah, and I'm open to any questions or comments as well. And just a question, but is the Red Line it's planned to tie into the existing metro, is it not? Or is that not decided, up in the air, kind of?
That is right now, so they haven't selected the alignment, so it'll be very much decided on the alignment. Right now, there are 3 alignment options. One that would be sort of more of a ditch option that would have more tunneling, and then 2 alternatives that are more surface level. So that announcement should be coming later this year, which alignment is selected, and then I think we'll have more information on what lines, what existing routes it may connect to on the existing service.
Gotcha, I was just curious. Yeah, if any community members have any specific suggestions or wants, please feel free to share, and I'll do my best to pass them on to the correct person.
I know Woodlawn Village is doing the streetscape project, which will take care of a lot of the sidewalk issues within that area of the corridor. Chantal, you have anything to, Steve, anything to bring to the forefront as far as a desired outcome or strategy? That's pretty much not in that one. With the ARPA Streetscape project, it can, but security area, and along the Security Boulevard area is another factor as well.
So with that of the Woodlawn Village, yes, like you said, Yolanda, there is a special team involved in taking care of the parking issues that are there, and also realigning some of the traffic pattern. So if you guys could give us about a year, I believe you, you know, because you still have to do your studies and all, then things will change in Woodlawn Village in that regard. Steve, do you have something to add for that area? Okay.
Anything in reference to security Woodlawn? Chantal, that you guys would like to see, desire, anything that you feel as though that would be a good strategy?
So for that area, it's kind of, I would have to say no, because that area, it's kind of like you'll have a high rate of traffic and then it will die down. It depends on if persons are going to work and picking up their kids. Maybe the traffic pattern, the lights have traffic lighting have a study of some sort just to keep the flow. Like every so often, do a traffic study.
Okay.
But the intersections that we have, it's more, I can understand why people speed because it feels more like a highway.
Mhm.
Because the roadways are so large, but we need those,
Mhm.
the lanes that we have, because you're either going to the mall or you're going to Social Security.
Mhm.
But there are smaller veins where maybe like tractor trailers come down where they shouldn't, especially like on Dogwood Road. But
Right.
there is also a bridge, so it's still some type of restriction there, but you can go around the business park to avoid the bridge. But you never know, it might be a new driver that don't know the route yet, or this section of Dogwood after Whitehead is just a small section for you to get around and back to Woodlawn Drive. The tractor trailer issue for parking, I noticed that has died down some. I don't know why. It could be all the ticketing that was done or the signage, but that could increase at any moment. But far as like just straight through traffic, what the community says from your different focus groups, that's kind of it that we hear back at SWPA.
Yeah, this is Steve Levins. I think with the streetscape, their plan is to have the final version by the end of the year and then break ground early next year. But some of the stamped concrete and the change in the traffic patterns to lessen some of the accidents. Because now if you're in the area, you don't have to wait too long. You'll see a car accident. So I think a lot of people are excited about the changes from that, and some work to acquire additional parking, which is definitely an issue, but seems promising.
Right.
So I think, like Chantel said, it's nice to see it actively improving, and give it a year and there'll be significant changes.
And hopefully within the next 5 years, this will be something of the past. At least for Woodlawn is concerned.
It's a great time to be here right now. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Wow. And Siobhan, did you have anything to add in reference to transportation?
No, not anything that I could think of right now.
Okay. All right, and
I
then we'll go ahead.
actually I have a question for Tabia about the bus program that MTA was pursuing. We were in conversation with MTA about replacing benches. I think it was called Fast Forward program.
Yes.
Yeah, so I really would like to put down some type of outcome or strategies for the next 5 years, just to see if that would help us, collaborate with MTA in implementing that program.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think that I would also add to the desired outcomes, in addition to just fast forward, to just look at a bench program. I know, like in the city, with some of our projects, we will implement benches as a part of our project. So we'll pay for and install, and then set up an agreement with the city where they're then maintaining it. So I think that's something else that we can look at, just setting up sort of a county-wide program where maybe we can look to install benches and then turn over the maintenance to the county.
Yeah. So I think that was the deal. We were gonna have an MOU for the maintenance part. But I think it's just making sure that we have that in the action plan so that it can get, implemented for the next 5 years. We've been talking about it for a while now, but nothing like we haven't been able to progress on it.
Absolutely. And just with some of the budget changes, so Fast Forward was one of the programs that is sort of on that cusp of like if there are sort of changes, that's one of the one that gets dropped down. So I think that's also part of the challenge with the implementation there. But I think that's a good one and a feasible one to put on the list of outcomes.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and then we'll move into local planning. That is us. We shouldn't be here long, even though it seems like it's a lot more written there. So some of the things that local planning is addressing is describes projects concerned, our local government's ability to plan for the community's future and to meet the current needs of the residents. And it includes zoning, ordinances, land use, subject area, policies, taxes, historical patterns of development, lot sizes, and shapes. There were a few things that came out of the focus groups. A few people said making sure that we're updating, they would like to see updating to various zoning ordinances and county codes and policies. Desired outcomes are reviewing the number of changes made to various codes and regulations. Encourage design quality of new proposed development and foster improvement of existing facades within our commercial areas. Incorporating improvement and beautification components in all future development proposals. And then implementation of tracking the projects and moving from idea action to actual completion. Another major feedback piece was a lot of the communities that did come out to the open house, they stressed that we had maps up and they didn't really see their communities within the sustainable community area. So many stressed that they would love to see us to expand those boundaries to include more communities in the Randallstown area as well as in the Woodlawn area that are not covered right now in the sustainable community areas. So some of the strategies that that I put down for some of those, if you can scroll over a little bit, see it. It's, continuing to work with the communities to determine what their needs are and how enforcement can better impact them. Also making sure that we're working with elected officials to amend or create more impactful regulations for communities in 2024 and moving forward. Identifying areas and boundaries to expand to in the Randallstown and the Woodlawn area. Exploring designating the core of Libby Road corridor and commercial design review areas to help ensure high design standards and incorporating sidewalks and bike lanes in all future proposed park projects located in a sustainable community area to improve the pedestrian experience, as well as the gripes of not having enough trails or pedestrian safety or walkability and connectivity. And also making sure that we're not just making an action plan and just leaving it by the wayside and saying, hey, see you guys in 5 years, actually making sure that we're monitoring and tracking these projects that we discuss in the sustainable community plans, as well as other projects that we may be working on to ensure that we have less to do within the next 5 years with creating the community that we all want to see. So I don't know if anyone else wants to add to that, what they would like planning to do, any more desired outcomes, or did I do a good job of covering a lot of what I have heard over the past few months since I've been in place?
I think you did a great job. I just want to quickly highlight the exploring designating the core of Liberty Road DRP. That area is already DRP, but I think it would be good to explore expanding the DRP into, 695 to the city line, but also west of Liberty Road, meaning maybe towards Marriottsville.
Okay. And then also a lot of people in that 12 Trees community did express being included in the sustainable community. And in the Woodlawn area, expand into Fairbrook community, as well as Friends of Larchmont and Woodlawn Estates. They also expressed wanting to be included. And does anyone have anything to add for any of the categories that we discussed, and or possibly anything that we may have discussed on Tuesday? Tuesday, we went over environmental quality of life and economy.
I have a question. Gane, you said expand west of 695 and to where?
What about we say the east and west node of Liberty Road?
Okay. East and west.
And then if we are sticking to this topic, don't know what Chantel and Steve think about design guidelines for the Woodlawn area.
I would love that. I would absolutely love that.
I was thinking, let's get our signs up quick. Just kidding.
And crazy, Sydney, we just had this conversation the other day. Was it Monday when I said I would like to see design guidelines and work on that initiative for Woodlawn? That's good. That way, Insider, Woodlawn Village will not look like the Chiquita banana with all the different colors.
Yeah, I have said that to people. Like right now, I don't want to say you could put neon flashing line signs up, but yeah, so probably time.
Right, well, we are finished early. If no one has anything left to say or contribute, everyone will be getting a copy of the recording as well as the PowerPoint presentations and the templates that we worked on over the past 2 days for Randallstown and Woodlawn. And I will give you guys back your evening. Thank you so much again for participating. And we will be in touch within the next few weeks for feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.